It's recording already?
There is this narrative that people, I don't think, are seeing the way they should, which is what this neo-Marxist narrative.
It's like
it's a communist undertone to all of these issues.
It's like you agree on one little thing, but you're not looking at the full picture of the person.
Part of me thinks there was this communist undertone that drives a lot of these things, and it drives the leaders, not the regular people. So and that's why you see these like communist ideals pushing their way through. Why is it that it's always tied? Where is the capitalist person standing over here and saying these things?
Right.
When I would argue nothing has raised more people out of poverty than capitalism. It's done it in India. It is doing it right now in China as China is opening up their markets. It does it in South America as it's opening up their markets, and Africa as it's opening up their markets. It revolutionized Europe and America and North America in general. They're not, because they're trying to tie them together in a way to create this idea, this identity of collective struggle against X group. Whatever X group needs to be for the struggle to be successful in that violent drive. Not just when I say violent, I don't mean like violent physically. I just mean like very passionate, very intense drive to change things. Maybe that's my conspiracy theory to it. Is that why else would you wear a communist shirt of Fidel Castro in Miami?
Look, man.
In Miami, which is as close as you're going to get to Cuba.
Now, what do you think? Do you think that was this communist drive is coming more from the...
It's coming from white liberals in college. Okay. It's coming from your professors in college. Because what you get is you get these...
So you don't attach that to Republican or Democrat Party?
I think that the Democratic Party is embracing it. Because what has happened is...
now we're getting somewhere.
So what is happening is... okay. Let me get
again, I'm not voting. I'm not Republican or Democrat.
Let me get into conspiracy theory.
It's
growing up. For most of us, when we were growing up when we were young, liberals came primarily out of the New York views of what liberalism is. Okay? It's very New York. It's New York Times driven. It's very much the policies of increasing taxes and welfare spending increasing. It's just basic economic liberalism that's sort of driving the narrative. That's where you're going to get a lot of the Kennedy kind of thing. And it's much more conservative liberalism. So Bill Clinton's not really that liberal, really. And John F. Kennedy's actually, if you look at the modern day, he's super conservative.
I just want to say this about, never, you said Bill Clinton, never mind.
Where you're going to get that shift, though, is the invention of, we talked about this already, social media. So where's social media at? California. Now, California, Silicon Valley, so where it was New York, it was Wall Street liberals, that kind of thing, has now shifted to Silicon Valley. So now Silicon Valley is much more in this social neo-Marxist thing, and it always has been. The difference is now their platforms are elevated because of social media. And so that narrative, that sort of it's much more socialist. It's not like typical Keynesian economics liberal that you get in New York. Much more socialist, much more Marxist. Class struggles, race struggles, that kind of. And if you look at California, do they just spend money like it's just never going to end?
And pray for Cali going up in flames right now.
It's chaotic over there. It's just like, it's a mess. But anyway, so the ideas of their party are coming much more heavily from California than they ever were before. Because California now and Silicon Valley is the root of all that influence. All your people that are in your major news sites. How often do we see ESPN moving its place into California, into Hollywood? And Hollywood values, which had always sort of been like just in movies and stuff, Hollywood values are now becoming mainstream when they weren't before.
Oh boy.
You're seeing that happen. And I think that's
Atlanta turned it into...
And a lot of that also is the way that it plays out into the system of our educational system. So at a college level, because they don't have regular jobs, they just philosophize all the time. So they try all the time to come up with these brilliant systems, and they're trying to analyze and break down when they write their dissertation about the issues with certain systems. And they see things like, this is true. You look at our capitalist system and you go, hey, why is it every 7 years doing this? And then they draw it sideways and they go, I don't like that system. There's an issue here. And then you look at that, and if you just take 10 minutes and look up a Marxist teacher, they'll teach about capitalism, never about Marxism. They'll spend 80 minutes talking about the evils of capitalism and never talk about what the solution is. Until they get to the very end, they just say, we just need to redistribute it all. And that's just all they say. Instead of seeing, they see it go like this instead of what you would see if you go to economics teachers, are almost always conservative really, but the system goes upwards. But it is like this. Every couple of years it goes down, but it goes down a little bit, and yet it goes way up, down a little bit, way up. It does like this, on its path up. That's why our standard of living is always coming up. But they sit in their universities and they teach you things like gender studies, gender theory, the idea that there's infinite amounts coming out of nowhere, wherever that came from, or that you can just kind of move it around however you want to. Those things start to arise. and colleges, and then they make their way into the political system. And then when they make their way into the political system, and then what they do is if you disagree with me, it's because you have a bigoted taste, whatever that is. If it's because you're trying to protect rich people, it's because you're trying to hate on people who are X and Y and Z. And I think that's how that plays out. And it's not just like a little bit. I mean, it's in college they have whole classes on these things, and you have to take them. They're not like optional. I mean, the first class I had to take an education as a class on diversity. That sounds really good. The teacher should know about diversity and how to teach it. And the very first lesson was I'm not kidding, this sounds like almost like a joke, was a YouTube video, conspiracy theory about Christianity that was just, I mean, it looked like a child made it in the basement. It was garbage. But it was designed to attack your religion first so we can start to take that out of your picture, to break down and reinstate these things.
Pray for spiritual insight on everything that's going on.
It's crazy.
I see it.
I literally left out of the class that day. I was like, I told her, I said, look, I don't know what this was about, but I'm not part of that. And she was like, it's okay.
Yeah, there was some in Milwaukee, I think it was a Democratic mayor who was signed in. She hated the Bible so much that they signed her in. They swore her in on a Dr. Seuss book. And Dr. Seuss was racist, by the way, just so y'all know, as you know. So rabbit hole that too.
So another thing that you see is like you're going to see a lot of push out of religion, because what religion teaches is that every person is made in a certain image and everybody's equal value.
Which party?
That's not successful.
Which party wants to get rid of the religious freedoms?
No, for sure.
Which one?
For sure.
I'm telling y'all, just rabbit hole stuff, man. Educate yourself, please. Stop looking at the news. Stop being indoctrinated by Fox and CBS. Please, just rabbit hole everything.
what I also see, and this is where Republicans struggle too, is like they don't have, what they do is they fall into that Democratic narrative, and then they try to play in it, and they look like idiots. And so they're like always playing this like weird back foot game where like they're successful, and yet they're always trying to pretend like they're poor. Like I don't know where that comes from. I'm like, dude, if you're successful, I'm successful. Just own it. And I'm not saying that you're more moral or you're more grand. But you're more moral to be honest than to be dishonest. Because when you're dishonest, you're feeding that system. They fall into those narratives. And so they try to play out of those narratives. And then what you get is this huge mule kickback, which is where you get the president. Which is a big kickback from people, normal people, who aren't college educated people. They're normal people sitting in their normal areas who work in factories.
Reacting emotionally.
Like, why am I talking about the 27 genders when I can't feed my family? I mean, and they're like, I want to send a guy up there who's just going to give a middle finger to that. And that's what he did.
Dog, what?
You know, you're gonna get that kind of, and so I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you can even look it up if you want to right now.
I just want y'all to know I predicted
Dictionary.com just changed the dictionary and changed a bunch of terms the other day.
Check it out before we sign off.
No, you're good. I'm sorry.
I just want y'all to also know that I've seen this pedophilia stuff come. You know, California just changed their laws, so people don't have to register as a sex offender. You know, the Cuties movie on Netflix that was coming. I personally canceled my Netflix account. I just want y'all to know. I just want y'all to know, man. There's more to what's going on right now than people realize. Stop watching CBS. Stop watching Fox. Stop waking up and turning on the news every day, and actually go really educate yourself on something, please.
Okay. Because
there's a lot more going on than what y'all realize. And I need our people to stop reacting emotionally, racist and ignorant. And so I feel like there's some people racist until they actually have experiences with people and understand their culture and things. That just fear of unknown is gonna stay.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and so personally, like when I look at Trump, I look at him as just the ignorant. His dad may have been the KKK. Racist, whatever. I do think Trump is more of the ignorant.
See, for me, here's what I'm with the president. I always think he's not. I don't know if he's a racist as much as he just hates everybody.
Cool. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes I just wonder that.
Right.
He just hates everybody who says anything negative about him.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't know. Maybe he is.
Maybe, right? Yeah. But I had that conversation. I realized, okay, cool. So you know, here's an ally. You know what I mean? And then we went over to the sheriff station to talk, the sheriff of Austell Police, And real cool dude, man, bright dude, had the thick mustache, kind of, tall, little buff. He actually teaches kickboxing and stuff around, and he was telling me how before he came to the station, the station was actually, part of the training was to, profile certain license places, to know if they're coming from Texas, and they got, drugs and stuff like that. But when he came in, they changed that training, and now, they haven't had any type of issues like in the last 10 years as far as like unjust killings and stuff like that. And so came in and they changed the way the training was. And so, and even in that gym I go to, there was a couple officers that had that, and they have a photo on the wall and everything. They use a shirtless photo with nunchucks around my neck. A shirtless like this. Really? And then the other half of the photo was like my hair slicked back, with a sweater on. So they were showing like he's a savage and he's like a t-shirt or whatever. So, whatever. And, and so it was very interesting seeing that. But that experience had just let me know that and so being in the gym, one of the officers did approach me. He was like, hey, and he's like my height, but I'm talking about like he'll throw all three of us across the room, power lifter. He's like, hey man, so, we got a problem, and I'm like, what's up, bro? He's like, oh, we started talking about the situation, and we had a conversation, and he let me know, like, yeah, man, look, we good cops, we hate those too, you know what I'm saying? They make us look bad, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I just want to make sure that that we're good. I mean, we live together, you know what I'm saying? And so it was just a situation of like, after going to that, I just got a little bit more insight, you know what I mean? And not just to like. And I don't think even that's a situation where they're necessarily around bad cops at their station and they're silent about it. I think that their station is possibly clean as a whole. You know what I mean? But you do have other stations where they let folk, get away with stuff. And so, but yeah, man, it's a situation where we gotta have good sheriffs to come in and change the way these folk were trained. Like he said, they changed the way the officers were trained over the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. And so they've had, little to no incidents, you know what I'm saying? So, but it's a situation where, and unfortunately that conversation ended where, they recognize I'm with Cobb Mentoring Matters. I've mentored boys in these elementary schools, around the schools. I'm a children's book author. I write exercise books for kids. I've gotten to do these exercise books with kids all over the country, fortunately. And, they said, hey, look, we could possibly do like a mentorship program in the future. And this be a room where we're able to open up conversation with the community for folks to understand each other further. Yeah. Not as some like I'm some, mascot for the police Kanye type of situation. But really to just open up conversation so folk can understand each other in the community and the people that they're policing, so. But no, that's just kind of like piggybacking off of that. I think that's a good example of, of how stations should move, and change, so they don't have these incidents,
What do you think, Chris? Because I know you kind of you seem to be diving into this a little bit, like on your own.
What's the main question again?
Basically, about I think you used.
What do you think in these? Because we have this situation, like this is how I see it. Mm-hmm. We have a situation in which there's a lot of racial unrest, things happening. Yeah. Some of which you may say justified, some is not, whatever. But there's something wrong when such a large amount of people feel that way. They're just not heard.
So
what do you think needs to happen? I'm just curious what you think.
And I also think, and where I was saying like there needs to be conversation, I think it's just a point of situation where a lot of our community is tired of trying to have conversation too. You know what I'm saying? And so where I was fortunately able to have a conversation and us understand each other's side. And they did actually address, there is systematic racism. There is, certain things going on. And the mutual friend I had, he's a white guy himself, and so it's like there's so much tension now and emotions high. How do we come back and try to really, see who are the good folk, the good cops we can talk to weed out these other bad systems, you know?
I feel like to fix all of this, I think we should just stay off of the phone.
Yeah, true.
And stay off the news, because if you you can ask somebody who's protesting. Okay, who are you protesting for? They're gonna tell you all the names that have ever been on TV, but they won't tell you no other name that hasn't been on TV. So that to me is telling me
we only know what's reported.
Exactly. So you're not really researching shit. You're just letting the news kind of tell you what to do. So I think if we just all just stayed off the phone, stop watching these documentaries about slavery and how we've been oppressed and abused and shit like that, if we can just like understand it happened, recognize it happened, and just leave it in the past, understand that some people are rude, some people will love you. But I don't think just because somebody's rude or mistreats you, it's because you're black. And that's just me. You know what I mean? Because to me, like, maybe it's, I mean, of course I guess you see racism, but I've never really, like, experienced no shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never been bullied or called out my name. Like, the only time I've ever been given a ticket was from black cops. I got pulled over with weed from a white cop and he let me go. You know what I mean? So my whole perspective of cops being bad and white people hate you, I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, it might have been something back in the day, and it might be something that lingers within our parents and grandparents, but people our age and what's going on, I just think the media fuels a lot of this shit.
I think it does.
It throws gas on the flame.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we just stop doing the whole Black History Month, stop doing all of this shit, we would just. And Black History Month is cool, and I say that because they just start with slavery. You guys were slaves. This is what happened.
I do think it's important to never forget the past. I do think it's important to remember the past so things don't repeat.
All right, but I think that's your parents' job. Like, let your parents talk to you about that shit. Let's keep it out of the school, keep it out of movies and stuff, but let your parents tell you what they want to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, don't let the school tell you, because the school's going to tell you what whoever's funding that school wants you to understand. So if your parents aren't teaching you shit at the crib, you can't be mad at the school system for teaching you what they want to teach you. Like, your parents should be smart enough to say, like, hey, of course there's different colored people out here, and of course somebody might not like you because of your color, your hair, your nose, but still don't go through life thinking that you are below everybody just because you're a certain color. And don't go through life like that. Yeah, yes, don't forget that we were slaves, but like,
I think we need to know history in totality, to be honest. I think the issue is that we don't know history in totality. And I think what's taught in a lot of schools leaves just a lot of holes in history as well. And so for me, like, again, it's a situation where I've literally rabbit holed almost everything I can think of. I've rabbit holed my own faith. I've rabbit holed everybody else's faiths and religions. I've rabbit holed how this government even was established. I've rabbit holed how they even got over here, who started each party,
who funded.
You know, really look at who started the Republican and who started the Democratic Party. You'll be surprised, and confirm that across multiple credible resources. And even understanding the history of humanity, and so for me personally, instead of really seeing a storyline of racism, to be honest, I see a storyline of something that's happened all the way from, if you know anything about the Tower of Babel, you know what I'm saying, and or the Divine Council, and spiritual beings mating with humans. I think it's a situation of we have people of a superior bloodline who feel more superior than the rest of us, and they're spinning the narrative of racism to distract folk. You know what I'm saying? And so I think what's going on is a little bit more about bloodlines. If you actually really look into, our presidents and their relations and just a lot of stuff, it's really a situation of history just repeating itself, to be honest. And I think racism is a construct that has been created that started with the Catholic Church and the Council of Nicaea and all that stuff, and that's been carried over here into America to incite us to get to this point.
Yeah.
I see a way bigger narrative and a bigger agenda here that I personally don't want to go into detail on here because it's a lot, and it's just one of those things where we'd have a way longer conversation than this to really get there.
I'm here till 8 o'clock. So you're more than welcome to talk for as long as you guys can stay.
Again, I think it's a situation where you got to look at history. You got to look at the history of humanity. If you believe in the Bible, look at the first physical and spiritual rebellion, Adam and Eve, and then the Satan. Satan isn't even a name; it's the Satan. That Adam. If you know Hebrew, if you understand the translation errors from our Hebrew to English, there's so many translation errors, as well as purposeful taking out of certain books like the Apocrypha and things that actually show a lot of the broader story of humanity and perspectives. But then I look at the Tower of Babel as a second, the biggest rebellion of humans, and spiritual rebellion as well. And that's where where multiple cultures have confirmed, and different religions have confirmed, this is where we got our first languages, our first 76 to 78 languages. And then humanity spread out from that point. And what came after that? You hear about, people don't know about the Nephilim giants, you know what I'm saying? Which those have been heavily edited out of our English versions, and there's just a way bigger, story here. And so when I rabbit hole the belief systems of our people in power as well, I see these people emulating a lot of some things that have happened in history, and things that have happened in biblical history that have actually been edited out of our English versions of the word. And so I feel like there's a way bigger story going on here. Y'all cover me, because this is some heavy stuff.
I feel like we are. I feel like we are in some shit that nobody will ever figure out.
I'm not gonna flex. I feel like I don't know I claim to know everything, but I feel like I figured out enough. But go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Enough is definitely. But I think it's like, I was telling somebody the other day, it's like the military usually has technology 40 to 60 years before we have it. So it's like, damn, even if you do figure out or get close to figuring out what's going on, the military is still half a century ahead of you. And it's like, well, shit. If the American military. So if we as citizens all live in America, because to me America is a business.
Oh, of course.
To me America is a business, and if we're all living here, we are living inside of a business plan. We are living inside of a blueprint. We are living inside of an outline. We are living inside of an itinerary. You know what I mean? Like, you don't run a business without having a plan. So if for you to tell me that, not you personally, but if for you to tell me that we are living in a country and there's no agenda, there's nothing going on, that's like you running a business and you don't have no goals or no plans. Like, of course there has to be agendas, there has to be goals. So I say that to say is like, I feel like we are really inside of some type of system that we don't understand. If it gets, and I don't, like I said, I understand where you say it's more so about bloodlines than anything, and I don't think race is a problem, because when you get to a certain amount of success and money, that race shit falls out the window. You know what I mean? I don't care what color you are. Like, if you're not coming with the check, the bag, the whatever, don't come. I don't care if, whatever color, whatever. But yeah, I think it does get. I just think we're in some shit and we don't really fully understand.
Rabbit hole everything.
Yeah, and rabbit hole to understand that you might not touch the bottom. Like, rabbit hole is good, but I know a lot of people rabbit hole and they get stuck because they're thinking, I'm getting close. I'm close to the bottom, but it's like, there is no bottom.
I think it's a situation, if you understand the history and all history that has been reported. Again, as not understanding just American history, understanding Hindu history, understanding Native American history, understanding Buddhist history, understanding ancient African history, understanding everybody's history, because the thing is that there's commonalities in everybody's perspective of what history is. And so when you understand everybody's perspective of what history is, you get a much bigger picture of what is actually going on. And so for me personally, it's a situation of confirming across multiple credible resources of everybody's. When I look at religion or think about religion or religious text, that's not my perspective that I'm studying religion. I understand I'm studying history, and just history from this perspective of a different culture. And then even when I read the Bible, I don't look at it as a religious text. I look at, I'm trying to understand the time of the writers, right? The time and their perspective. Here's a very good example, right? In the Christian church, we're taught to not look at astrology at all, right? That astrology is evil, it's divination, whatever. But why is that? Why have we been indoctrinated that way, right?
That's the truth.
Well, wait. And it is true. You are getting into divination and certain things, but when you actually look at certain books that have been edited out, like the Book of Enoch, right? And again, the Catholic Church does have a lot of this apocryphy is still in, but they're not in our English version over here in America. The Enoch actually confirms that astrology was a thing, that the human nature was created, the God's science or Yah's science of how he created human nature was heavily based off of the solar system. But because of divine rebels coming and teaching humans this information, that is information human beings were never supposed to know.
For sure. Because when you had the stars and planets, that was our entertainment.
Exactly.
That was our day-to-day
life. And so now my perspective is, okay, cool. It's not a situation where just astrology isn't real. It's really just information human beings were never supposed to know. But because you have divine beings, you have the Nephilim giants, who are the offspring of divine beings, and humans having sex. From the Native Americans' perspective, they called them the sky people. From the Egyptian perspective, they called them the ancient aliens that helped them build the pyramids. From the Hindus' perspective, they look at them as the Shiva and these giants. From the Buddhist perspective, they look at it as all these giants, all these creatures in different beliefs and religions. They all have an origin. And where did they come from? They come from the Tower of Babel, the Satan, and if you look at history of the apocrypha that was come out, and these divine rebels having sex with women. This is why women are such the most coveted creatures on this planet. It starts with a spiritual rebellion, you know what I'm saying? And again, this is the same story that's told in all religions, but from different perspectives. It's just been heavily edited out of the Christian Bible, you know what I'm saying? And so for me, knowing the origin of your belief and my belief as well has personally given me a bigger perspective of, okay, I'm just seeing dots being connected here a little bit. And then, again, when I talk about bloodlines, it's just a situation of just look into the presence a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And them and you'll get a clearer picture of the history of humanity and the repeating of what's going on. Again, I'm not claiming to know all the answers, but it's a situation where I feel like I've rabbit holed enough perspectives from different histories, incredible resources, enough to get a good gist of the full story of what's happening. And I feel like what we're seeing is the end game. We're seeing, Revelation being played out. We're seeing climate change, which is, that's a whole nother monster.